It's been 40 years since partition. Margaret Thatcher has been Prime Minister of England for 8 years. Something exciting is brewing in Australia because they might just be the best team in the world. It's the 1987 World Cup. Naresh, the Assurance Cup is dead and gone forever, but we have a new corporate sponsor, and that's what I want to lead this
Hey,
episode with. It's the
perfect.
Reliance Cup. It's 1987, and we have entered the modern era of cricket. The TV production seemed better. The stadium was a real stadium instead of a very small ground in England that people like because it's old. Also, they played by the right rules, more or less. 50 overs. We have entered the modern age. It is 50 over cricket now. Um, what do you think? We're not in England anymore. It's new.
Yeah. So again, out of all of the past couple of World Cups that we've done, I'd say the '87 one is definitely the least I know about. But when I started watching that finals video, because that's the only piece of media I've seen from the '87 World Cup, my immediate thought process was, wow, the TV production looks very good. There's a lot, it just felt more vibrant. And
It sounded very bad,
oh,
but it looked very good.
yeah, okay. I wasn't paying attention to what the commentators were saying. I was
No,
focused on.
the audio quality was just garbage. And I don't
Okay,
know if that's from like the reproduction highlight video or if that was live time too.
gotcha. But yeah, the TV production, the vibrance of how it looked very cool. And I think the one thing that I really noticed was the again, maybe we'll save this for the finals, but you talked about, hey, it's not just a small field in England anymore, but it looked like a pretty small field in general, though. But maybe that was just me. I don't know.
Oh, my view, and yeah, we have a whole final section and everything. My view was like, oh, they're playing in a stadium.
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't realize that for Lords they were playing in somebody's backyard. Now they're playing in a stadium that has people in it and the crowd is huge and loud. Like
yeah.
that's what I was like, "Oh my God. Like this looks like they've launched themselves 30 years into the future."
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the way you phrased it about this be really feeling like the modern day cricket, like the modern age of cricket really started with this World Cup. I would 100% agree with you. I don't know if you know this, but what led to the changing of 60 overs to 50 overs? Like who just was like,
I don't
let's
know.
cut it down?
I didn't.
Okay.
I should have looked into that, and I didn't because I found something else interesting that I looked into instead.
Okay.
I will also say while we're on this, so it's 50 overs now instead of 60, but it is still red ball, white close.
Okay.
Wikipedia did spoil for me. This is the last one that's red ball, white close. So next World Cup, I'm expecting white ball and colorful uniforms, the way that we have kind of now in the modern era. Um, and while we're on just all that stuff, teams, 8 teams, same 8 teams as 1983. So it's Australia, England, India, New Zealand, Pakistan, West Indies, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe once again won the ICC trophy in 1986, this time beating the Netherlands. Double round robin, semis, then finals is our format. And as we've noticed, as we've discussed, this one does not take place in England. It takes place in India and Pakistan. It is joint
Hey,
hosted.
okay. How about
So,
that?
my background today, especially because all 8 teams are the same as last time, is why isn't this in England? Why is it in India and Pakistan instead? Do you have any guesses?
So, I mean, I think remember when we watched the documentary on Netflix between like the India Pakistan rivalry or something like that a few weeks ago?
Vaguely.
Um, so I think it was something to do with like potentially helping out like the relations or something. No?
Well, no. So I mean, the funny thing is, right, for the first three, England hosted. And theoretically, it sounds like after the fact, the ICC did like vote and
Mm.
was like, yeah, England's gonna host. And there's, I don't know, 28 or 30 voting members, and England's gonna host. Um, but at least for the first one, it sounds like for at least one or two after, like nobody else tried to host. Like nobody else had enough cricket stadiums all within a distance that you could feasibly travel and have hotels for, and
Mhm.
nobody else had the match officials and nobody else had the TV. So it was like, yeah, like England's just gonna keep hosting until they're not hosting. And in 1987, England was pretty sure that they were just gonna host again because like nobody else can host.
Right.
Um, and instead, India and Pakistan put together a joint bid. And the research I found a ton of articles all from Indian media that just cover the Indian side. And I like looked exclusively trying to find Pakistan stuff, and to be quite honest, I couldn't find any, at least not English language. So this is largely going to be India framed, which
Okay.
I think is probably fine. But it sounds like basically um they showed up. Um, India, it sounds like, spurred by having won the finals in '83. Um, the head of the BCCI at the time was NKP Salve. Um, and the story goes in the media, unclear if this is true or not, that he basically got pissed off at England cricket after India requested extra seats after they qualified for the 1983 finals, like for player families or for more Indian journalists or for BCCI guests, whatever it was for, and were
Right.
denied. And they were like, no, you can't have more seats than what we've already given you. And
So
so the
is that
story
what?
goes that pissed him off,
Yeah.
and he was like, fine, I'm gonna host. Like, screw you guys. If this is how you're going to treat me when you host, I'll host instead. Um, so Pakistan and India teamed up, rolled up to this meeting. It sounds like surprised everybody there by putting in a bid at all and
Right.
promised 5 times more money than what England said they would back it with.
Oh shit! How about that? There you
And
go.
and so everyone was like, "Oh, like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah. It's
lot of
like
money." And
that.
it seems
Yeah.
like England was just surprised. Like England didn't think they'd have to compete, so
Right.
they couldn't just be like, "Oh yeah, we'll match." Like they didn't the people in the room didn't have the authority to say that, right?
Right. Right.
So they did. The India Pakistan bid still only won 16 votes to 12, despite promising 5 times more money. Um,
I mean, I can
so
get the apprehension from these others, like whoever was voting.
I mean, I'm
Um.
sure half the members were English anyway.
Yeah.
And like who know like and
Right.
I don't know and I could like make up stories all day long, but like maybe the West Indies people would rather play in England because it's closer. Like I don't know. That sort of thing. So
See, I have
um
another question, real quick.
yeah.
Do you think this is the beginning of the BCCI person in charge turning into a supervillain? Was this what set the tradition?
I think this laid the groundwork, but I wouldn't classify this as part of it. I think the funny part, and this is like such a good origin story, if that's how you want to play it, because you know what the
Okay.
best part about this bid was?
No.
They didn't have the money.
Let's go. What a bluff. Elite. That's
They
elite.
did not have the money at all. So
Yeah.
again, I tried to find as much info as I could about Pakistan. Really kind of came up empty-handed, but found a bunch of stuff about India. It sounds like the cost split was going to be Pakistan pays a third, India pays two-thirds. India gets about two-thirds of the games.
Okay.
They each host one semifinal, and India gets the final. So
Right.
that's like kind of how the split goes. Um, and um, a deal was starting to be struck by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. That's how high up this went. Like
Right.
looking for funding, trying to get this promised funding. The Prime Minister of India worked with their friend, whose name I'm going to absolutely butcher, um, Dhirubhai Ambani,
Oh
who's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the owner of a company called Reliance. You know this
Yes.
guy?
Yeah, yeah, dude. Ambani, he's big, dude. He's like one of the richest human beings in all.
What's
He is.
Reliance? Do you know what Reliance
It's
is?
Reliance is a phone network. It's like AT&T.
This
Like,
is this is the Reliance Cup.
yeah, yeah. That as soon as you said Reliance, I was like, that makes a lot of sense because Reliance in India, especially, is one of the biggest like phone network
Damn.
companies, and it's clear the dude. That makes a lot of sense.
And
Things are coming
that's why I
together.
have you on this podcast.
Yeah,
Because I don't know shit.
I got you. I am the culture.
We are gonna get a little bit political here again. So, um, Gandhi and Ambani kind of made a deal. It looked like Reliance was going to sponsor the tournament, and then Indira Gandhi got assassinated. So the next prime minister um, wasn't friends with Ambani and was like, "No, we don't need your money. Like, no thanks. See you later." Um, and instead, India approached a bunch of major international sponsors, so like banks and stuff, as well as I think, and now I'm really going off memory. I think it was like Gillette and Coca-Cola, like major, mostly American brands, um, to cover the costs, and they all refused. So then India was kind of in trouble, and they went back to Ambani and they were like, "Hey, do you do you still have interest in hosting? Can we maybe do this? We changed our minds. Sorry that we told you no." And Ambani agreed under two conditions. The first condition was that the event is officially called the Reliance Cup, which was obviously agreed to. It's known as the Reliance Cup. The first three were all sponsored by Assurance, so this wasn't like a new or groundbreaking thing. The second thing, which I like to think was a personal dig and is why I really like it, was that he personally gets to sit next to the Prime Minister in Kolkata at Eden Garden Stadium for an India-Pakistan exhibition match right before the World Cup.
Oh
And I
wow.
really like to think that was him just being like, yeah, I will sponsor this for you, but you are going to publicly sit next to me on television and listen to me for 5 hours while I just lay into you.
Oh man. I mean, that's leverage. That's elite.
It's good stuff. So the Indian cost, which again should have been about two-thirds, I couldn't find any sources saying how much Pakistan paid on this, was at the time, and I don't know if you're going to know this, Naresh, or not, 32 crore rupees.
Okay.
Um, for everybody else, in 2025 money, that's what we're going to do it in, 420 crore rupees, it's about 48 million American dollars.
Okay.
Um, so 50 million bucks, 2025 money by today's standards is kind of cheap,
No, yeah.
but like this five times more than what England had promised. Um,
Gotcha.
I think based on a little bit of research that a lot of what India promised the money wise was into like stadium upgrades. And I think for
Understood.
England's side, they just kept running their stadiums back. Um, but yeah, I mean, India got to host alongside Pakistan. India ultimately get the final. We'll jump into this in a second. They're in different groups again. Surprise, surprise. So like India played all their games at home and Pakistan played all their games at home.
Right, right.
So like kind of a win for both countries, I think.
Absolutely.
Um, Anyway, that is our little background story today. Gameplay logistics. Once again, all the games took place during the day. There were no night games. And because the overs dropped from 60 to 50, the bowling over limits dropped from 12 to 10. So that is what it is today. It maintains that you could have five bowlers bowl the max, and that would get you to the end. But that is ultimately what our gameplay logistics were about. Um, Gameplay wise, Group A, India, Australia, New Zealand, Zimbabwe. Group B, Pakistan, England, West Indies, Sri Lanka. Notable here, I think India, Pakistan still split up. I know we keep joking, like eventually they're going to be in the same pool and stay in the same pool. Not quite there yet, which makes sense, right? So all of Group A's games are in India. Most of Group B's games are in Pakistan. All of Pakistan's games are in Pakistan.
Makes sense.
Australia and England, separate groups once again. Um, they had just played the Ashes in the Aussie summer of 86, 87. This tournament took place in October into November of 1987, so it had been the most recent Ashes top of mind. So I think they split those two up. West Indies, India split into two different groups. Obviously, the previous finals matchup, and then Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe, kind of the two last teams to be split as well. So, Group A, which is the India group. Two things I want to highlight from here. First one, game one in India. for the whole tournament. I think it was game two of the tournament. I think Pakistan led off. In Chennai, India versus Australia.
Okay.
Australia bat first, put up 270 for the loss of 6 wickets. It's a high score in
Yeah.
ODI, and like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
weren't seeing scores that high in 60 over games in the previous totals. India respond and go 269 all out on the last ball. And the
Oh,
last man got bowled. It's not even like they tried to force a single and got run out, just
right.
straight bowled on the final ball of the innings. And
That's
that must
yeah.
have been terrible.
See, okay. This is where obviously you come at me for being a bad fan, but that sounds like one of the most fun sporting events.
Oh, it
You've
must have been electric.
absolutely phenomenal.
But just imagine, like, I feel like as I was kind of planning this all out, like thinking about this episode, um, I feel like the first three World Cups felt very historic to me,
Yeah.
particularly because since I've been following this sport and the little history I learned when I started following it, West Indies were known as a historic powerhouse.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
West Indies is gone.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about India being good and Australia being good. And it's like, oh, that's what's happening right now. And that feels modern. I know that not both teams don't maintain excellence throughout the next 45 years or whatever,
Right.
but it in my mind, because I don't know, they could. And
Right.
so I'm like looking at this rivalry now. I'm like, so you're telling me India are defending champs. They get to host. They have this massive stadium in Chennai. They're going to have complete home field advantage. And it comes down to the last ball and they lose. Like that could set up a complete meltdown.
Oh, for sure.
Like that could be unbelievable. Um, and especially the last guy getting bowled out. Like as soon as I found out it was last ball, it was like surely it was a run out. Surely they
Right.
tried to force a single and they couldn't get it. And like,
Right.
no, it was just a clean ball.
Yeah,
Like
that's unfortunate.
that's
How'd Sonny G do? Was he
Sonny
100%?
G in that game, 37 off 32, which is I think his
Progress.
best performance in a World Cup to
Yeah.
date.
Okay. I see
That's
you.
a strike rate over 100. I think he figured this sport out.
Hell yeah.
Like maybe it was dropping to 50 overs. It's
Yeah.
now it really doesn't feel like tests. I don't
Gotcha.
know,
Gotcha.
but
Gotcha.
don't you can't blame him.
Well, no, no, of course not. A strike rate over 130.
Yeah,
He did well. He
that's
did well
good as an opener, especially. That's
for
great.
sure. He showed he
Um,
can do it, and I hope he retired afterwards, just to say
yeah.
fuck all of the haters.
So India take game two against Australia because again it's double round robin. Both teams sweep New Zealand and Zimbabwe.
Okay.
So both teams end up 5-1. New Zealand takes both games off Zimbabwe, so Zimbabwe go 0-6. And Australia and India advance out of the pool. Group B.
Wait.
Um,
Quick timeout. Quick timeout.
yeah.
You said they split the series, right? Australia,
Yeah,
India.
Australia India beat Australia the second time they played.
Right. So who ended up being the top of the pool, like in terms of
Let me pull up run rate
okay,
wise.
because I would assume it would be India
India topped the
transferring.
pool with a better
Yeah,
run rate.
that makes
Yeah.
sense because of how close the game one was 269, 270. I'm
Yeah, and
assuming India
India
won
won
that.
pretty comfortably in the second game,
Yeah,
if I remember
yeah.
correctly. Yeah, Australia lost by 56 runs,
Okay, yeah, there you go.
bowled out with an over to go.
Nice.
Yeah, so pretty dominant victory there for India the second time
For sure.
around. Um, Group B, Pakistan go 5-0, going into their final game against West Indies, which literally doesn't matter. They won the pool. They do drop that, so they don't get the 6-0. England go 4-2 to
Mhm.
advance, so it's gonna be Pakistan and England out of that pool. Game to highlight here was Pakistan versus West Indies game one. So again, game two, West Indies did win. Game
Right,
one came down to the final ball, the same way that Australia India did.
right.
West Indies were all out for 216 and 49.3 overs, and Pakistan got it done and got to 217 on the last ball of their innings. So
Electric.
kind of like a story of two, like
Right.
the opposite sides of the coin here. It was not Pakistan's first game of the tournament. I think it was their third game of the tournament.
Gotcha. Okay.
But still kind of like that could have led to collapse for India, and then they won out their pool.
Yeah.
And this could have been like really bad design that could have, come up bad for Pakistan, and instead they like won out. They did, I mean, they struggled against West Indies. They lost that final game. Um, Ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? West Indies lost both their games to England and finished the pool 3-3.
Right.
Sri Lanka went winless, but um, interesting stuff. I thought that two different games in this tournament for host nations both came down to the final ball.
Yeah, I mean that's electric, and obviously we see just the tale of two countries, obviously, where India they couldn't get it done, but Pakistan did get it done, and it must have been euphoric for Pakistan to feel like, yeah, we went 6-0, we're ready to go, and now I can't even. So I'm assuming based off
Well,
of.
they went 5-1. So that was their first
Sorry,
game against
yes,
Winston, and they lost
right,
the
right,
second
right.
game. Yeah,
Wait, you're talking about India, right? India went 5-1.
both teams went five
Pakistan.
and one.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Pakistan beat West Indies in the first part of the double round robin and lost the second game.
Oh,
They
gotcha,
had
gotcha.
gone 5-0 and then dropped their final game. Yeah,
Understood. Understood. Okay. So in that case, Pakistan obviously is the one seed. So
they're the
Pakistan in the
yep, they're
semis,
the one seed. So
does that
Pakistan and India both won their pools, which is good
right?
because like
Because
if
then it's
you
one
played at a
versus
semi and
two.
didn't and had to play away at the other host, that would have been
Yeah.
nuts. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Australia got second in their pool, so they
So
played
then,
Pakistan in Pakistan, and England got second in their pool, so they played India in India.
right, right, right. Okay.
Um, and as you know from the finals video, both home nations lost, which like really must have stunk for them. Um, Neither game was particularly close. India hosted England in Mumbai. England bat first, 254 for six. India all out for 219, fall well short. Pakistan to host Australia in Lahore. Australia put up 267 for eight, and then Pakistan all out for 249.
Mhm.
So after like a few pretty electric games in pool play, both host nations winning their pools, they both kind of like get dominated in the semis to teams that have both been in the finals before, but neither team had won it.
Mhm.
Um, it didn't sound like at least Australia was going to be a favorite coming in. Didn't really get any news on England, but it just the narrative of people following live of can you imagine India Pakistan final? It's gonna be in Kolkata, which is like it's in the far side of India from Pakistan on the east, but like still it's over near Bangladesh. Um, like the story, like everyone must have been hoping for that, right? Like I'm into sports rivalries all the time, and I always root against the team that my team is a rival with,
Yes.
unless them winning means we'll see each other in the playoffs, unless it
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
can knock them out.
Right.
Like I have to imagine that Indian fans wanted to see Pakistan in the finals and vice versa.
Of course. I
Because
mean,
like that's the team
the
you want to be. You want to humiliate them, you want
in
to
the
knock
final.
them
Yeah.
out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like neither one could get it done. Neither of them get the bragging rights. They both host, they both get knocked out at home in the semis.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I think obviously when it's in your home country, especially for India and Pakistan, it's one of those things where they had it set up and they obviously couldn't get it done. But I'm wondering just what was the issue, right? Like there's got to have been like especially for when it comes to matchups, we clearly were think like India. You said it yourself. Australia might be the best team in the world right now, but we saw India pretty much match them and
So
comfortably
that's
beat
the
them.
thing. I did that as my little funny joke in the intro because it
Right.
made sense linguistically.
Yeah.
Australia, let me make sure I get this right because I wrote it down. Coming into the finals, no, sorry. Coming into this tournament, Australia were on a 5 game ODI losing streak and had lost the home Ashes the previous winter 10 months
Yeah. Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Like they were
Okay.
not doing good as a team. They were
Damn, bro,
like
you set
down
me up for
bad.
failure there.
Yeah, and they kind of came up with a Cinderella story.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Um, in terms of like why the teams failed, I don't know, man. Like it's cricket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like both teams, it didn't seem like it was close, but like neither team got embarrassed.
Right.
Like not neither of the teams that won put up 300, neither teams that got bowled out for 130. Like I I don't know, man. I wish we had video. I can say for the India game, Sunny G didn't help. 4 off 7, run out. It's not the way to do it, my boy.
That's
Um,
unfortunate.
Speaking of Sunny G, and it's my joke, and I assume this is the last time he's playing in an ODI World Cup, but we'll see.
Yeah.
37 off 32 in game one against Australia, 2 off 14 against New Zealand. It's a tough one. 43 off 52 against Zimbabwe, 61 off 72 Australia, second time around, 50 off 114 against Zimbabwe, figures it out, goes 103 not out off 88 against New Zealand and then 4 for 7 in the semifinals. So
Okay.
kind of a like valleys and peaks there for Sunny G
Yeah,
in this
yeah, yeah. I
one.
mean, that's really what most of, I mean, again, my history of cricket is like super bare bones, but that really feels like what a lot of his career looks like because his World
I
Cup
think this is
performances
his
previously,
best World Cup by far.
that's what I'm saying. Like his previous World Cups have been not great,
Yeah,
but he's obviously known as this phenomenal batter. So it's clear that he had just amazing performances outside of the World Cup.
yeah,
So it's
and
one of those
in
things where,
test specifically, yeah, and like the obviously we're just coming off the Australian summer of the 24-25 Border Gavaskar Trophy between India and Pakistan, and um Sonny G is the Gavaskar of Border Gavaskar Trophy, and Alan Border is also in this World Cup playing for Australia, who eventually win it. So both those guys have a World Cup win. Um, I think the other thing about these stats, where it's like, that's a pretty good game. Oh, that's a terrible game. Oh, it's an amazing game. Oh, that one stunk. Oh, this one's
yeah,
okay. Is like we're just coming off watching the Champions Trophy, and it's like that's basically what happens to all the openers, right?
yeah,
Like Shiv McGill has results like that. Like Coley's not an opener, but he also is like he's out for less than 20 or he gets 100. Like
right.
it's
Yeah. No, the variance of it is, yeah,
yeah, so I think that tracks. But yeah, by far his best performance, which is nice for him to do it at home, of
for sure.
course. Not as sweet as winning it the prior edition.
Yeah. So I have one more question off of
Yeah.
that. How many players from the 83 World Cup were still on the 87 team for India in particular? Because, like, I would assume, I
I
don't know
don't
if
know
you,
how good's your memory of the 83 roster.
I am sure if you say names, something will trigger.
So, yeah. Chris Srikanth is on the team
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Sunny G.
Yes.
Navjot Sidhu. I don't remember that
I
name,
don't remember.
so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's new. Mohammed Azharuddin. That was the player man of the match. Am I thinking
That
of a different?
sounds
No, that was Abernath. So this is a new name, I think.
okay.
Um, Chandrakant Pandit. I don't remember that name.
Yeah.
Um, Kapil Dev is still captaining.
Okay.
Um, Ravi Shastri is in now. He had been kind of like 12th man. He came in when Sunny G was hurt in the previous World Cup, but now he's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
on the
Yeah. Yeah.
roster.
Gotcha.
Um, Kieran Moore, don't remember that name. Manoj Prabhakar, don't remember that
Okay.
name.
Yeah. It sounds like a new.
Um, Chetan Sharma, don't remember. And then Mandir Singh.
That
Um,
seems like a new person
I
as well.
don't think I remember that name.
Yeah, that seems like a new person as well.
So
It's a pretty,
4 5 guys came back. No, less than half, it sounds like.
yeah. So I mean, for the most part, it sounds like a decently new squad and like relatively inexperienced squad. Um, okay, that's hey,
And
I
that was and that was specifically the semifinals
gotcha.
roster. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
some other guys played in group play, but that was the semifinals lineup.
So one more thing, was India the pre-tournament favorites for this still, or was it?
I don't know. I didn't really see articles about who was the pre-tournament favorites, but I think India, Pakistan, and England were like the three.
Okay,
I think people knew West Indies had taken a step back, and
right,
Australia was on this like terrible losing streak, so I don't think people
right.
really thought anything of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, which yeah, like for 3 years it's been West Indies, and like I said, I think this was kind of open field. Um, Maybe you give the tip of the cap to India because they're hosting all their own games and the final guaranteed,
Right.
and they're the defending champs.
Yeah.
Maybe you tip it to England, who's coming off an away Ashes victory and like doing good. They've made a finals before at least. Like Pakistan, probably, I imagine, was the third. Even if they made it to the finals, it was going to be in India. And they'd been knocked out in the semifinals, I think, each of the three previous World Cups. Or did they even make it to the semis in the first one? I don't remember. But yeah, I think it was kind of more of an even field. Um, but to the finals we go. And I thought this was really funny. Um, so it's the Ashes. It's England versus Australia. I saw like literally on Wikipedia or something, it was like, and everyone was excited because it was the big rivalry of England versus Australia. And I'm like, I am a cricket fan in the 2020s. That is not a rivalry. England is quite frankly not very good.
Right.
The
Right.
good rivalry is India versus Australia.
Right.
and they gave us good games in pool
Right.
play.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
would have been a better final, I bet. In India? Are you kidding me? And then Australia break their hearts? This could have been like the start. But
Yeah.
but it wasn't. Also, so it's in Kolkata, Eden Gardens, 100,000 people.
Dude, you can
Lords
like
hosts like 30,000.
right, right, right.
Like this
Yeah.
is a massive
Yeah.
upgrade in terms of like number of people that get to be there to see this.
Yeah, and the fact that they actually have like fences up and
Yeah,
you can't just run onto the field
it's a
anymore.
real stadium and
Yeah,
not just somebody's backyard.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
It's
this
very
this was good. Like skipping ahead to like the observations we saw in the finals, I literally wrote down in England they played in someone's backyard. In Kolkata they were playing in a real ass stadium where the fans can't be on the field. Like with the big fences up, and when you hit a six over the chain link fence into the
yeah.
crowd, it's like, oh, that was like a big six.
That was a
Where I
shot.
feel like
Yeah,
in at Lords you like couldn't tell. You're like that was 10 rows deep, but I think the first 5 rows are still all on the field. Like
right, right, right.
it's tough to tell, but
I mean, we saw in I think the '83 World Cup where there was like a four, but like a fan like reached over and
yeah.
like
Oh,
pulled the
that was happening
ball.
all the time. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So this is a little bit more shall we say professional, I guess.
Yeah.
Um I've already spoiled it. Australia win. They bat first, go 253 for the loss of 5 wickets. England respond 246 for the loss of 8. So they don't get bowled out, but they can't quite close that gap as they chase. Um, so I also have in my notes, I already said, so Australia's coming in this 5 game losing streak. They lost their home Ashes. Um, so when they got to India, their coach was like, we can't keep doing this, guys. Like we got to be good. We have to be good. So let's try being good.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so it was called out that they both did extra fielding practice, which I think we literally made fun of them for it. Yeah, in like literally the first one in 1975.
Yeah.
Tried
Yeah,
really
yeah,
hard. And B did the most un-Australian thing I've ever heard of in my entire life, which was say the players can't drink alcohol during the tournament.
it's really funny you say that because that's the first thought that went into my mind as soon as you said that's the anti-Australian
It's
uh
like the modern sporting idea.
right.
Like, hey, maybe if you're an athlete, you shouldn't just be hammering beers between all of your games. And they're like, oh shit. And then they won the entire tournament. It was that easy,
Yeah,
guys. They
right.
were
It's
just
the
the only
soccer.
sober team.
Right, right, right. Oh man.
Um,
That's I will say maybe this is just me being like maybe this is a bad thing to say and I apologize because the West Indies was no longer involved. There were points of this game where both teams kind of just looked similar. I think the white uniforms did not help, and the fact that both countries share similar features did not help the case of
you
being like,
don't,
okay,
this is on you because you can't distinguish between distinguished English players and hick Australians.
Oh, right. That's on me. My apologies.
And as I say that, I know we record these and then I edit in all the photos and videos and stuff later. We're gonna have some great photo references as I say that. So
Perfect.
that's gonna be fun. Australia bat first. They have a man I've never heard of named David Boone who opens 75 off 125. Mike Valletta comes in at six, has the next highest score for Australia, 45 off 31. And then a 22-year-old named Steve Waugh comes in at seven, goes five not out off four balls. Naresh, do you know who Steve Waugh is?
Should I? You said that like I should know who that is, but I do not know who that is.
What if I told you that he's considered the most successful test captain in history with 41 test victories and a winning ratio of 72%?
That's very impressive. But Patrick Cummins will always be my goat.
Yeah. Pat
He is
Cummins, the
my
cum dog. Yeah,
Australian
let's go.
captain.
Um,
That's
he
pretty
won
dope.
16. He captained the Australia won 16 consecutive tests. He was captain for 15 of them. Um, he's like considered one of the greatest, obviously test captains of all time, but greatest players of all time as both a batter and a bowler. I think for the next five, like literally no joke, I think five World Cups, it's going to be about how good he is and the fact that he's still on the team. Maybe that's an over exaggeration. Maybe it's only three or four, but like we talked about 1975, it was Viv Richards at 22 years old coming in, kind of getting his first look. People didn't really know who he was. His stats weren't like phenomenal, but he was there. He was a part of it. Steve Waugh is there and he's a part of it. So he comes in his little cameo right at the end, sees four balls, five
Right.
runs, not out, then the innings ends.
Yeah.
Um, I think he took two wickets bowling in the final. Like this is the next generation. We've
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's Australia coming to play. Um, Second innings, England respond to Australia. Golden Duck first over. That'll show them. Tim Robinson out first ball.
Right.
That he saw, I think it was the third or fourth ball overall. It was one run in it already. But then after that, they actually have a really good stretch. So Graham Gooch, 35 off 57, Bill Athey, 58 off 103, Mike Gadding, 41 off 45, and Alan Lamb, 45 off 55. Um, but after that, nobody scores more than 17, which I think is because similar to when England made it to the finals in 79, by the time kind of their good stretch was done or their guys getting high totals was done, the run rate was kind of getting up there. And like the rest of the guys, it was like, if you're not striking over 100, then we're going to lose. So you got to start swinging. Um, for the final five guys do have strike rates over 100. So like kudos to them. They turned it on, but they just couldn't get it done.
Type thing, yeah.
They ultimately needed 17 from that final over.
Which is
Um,
doable,
is
honestly.
doable, and I mean
Yeah.
they got 10,
Yeah.
or maybe nine. I don't know. They lost by seven. I don't know if they needed 17 to win or to tie, but it seems like it would have been a good game. Like England would have thought they were in it right up to the end, and I can imagine 10 overs to go. It's like, all right, we need this and this and this, and then five
Like
overs,
one,
and
like maybe
um,
one or two balls per over goes differently. Like
yeah. I
England.
also like I haven't like going super out of order compared to what I normally do. I have in my notes, I don't know if you noticed, and I had to go look up his name based on how he got out. I like worked the scorecard to figure out which guy he was. A guy named Phil DeFreitas for England got 17 off 10. And in that highlight videos, he looked to me like a super modern player. He looked like a modern player who came in at the end of a limited overs match and was told, you need to hit a boundary every ball.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he goes six, at least in the highlight video, he goes
yeah,
6-4 and then gets caught on the boundary. And it's like, he did what he could. I mean, he came in and
yeah,
got 17 off 10. If the next guy does that too, you win. But
yeah,
like, he could only do so much. Which I don't know if you noticed that, like, in terms of we talked about the production value in the stadium, it looks a little bit more modern, but like, I feel like in the previous tournaments, it looked like test cricket with the exception of two or three West Indies batters.
yeah,
And
yeah.
in this highlight video, it looked like people were playing limited overs cricket.
Yeah, I think again, this goes back to what you were saying earlier, like the modern age of that was, I think, the perfect description of this because I saw a lot more boundaries. It felt like it from multiple players, not just
Yeah.
like the same few players that you saw. Like in the earlier ones, it was Viv Richards and
Clive,
Clive.
yeah, Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards.
Um, for West Indies, you saw those two were the ones that were really just hitting bombs and just really getting the high run rates and scores. But for these in this game in particular, where I know I kind of joked about not being able to differentiate between the two teams sometimes, but the entire like 9-10 minute video was just constant. It felt like there was a boundary every few seconds because people were actively, I think, figuring out how best to approach the limited overs cricket at that point. And I think it was a game that we could potentially see now. Like it
Yeah.
genuinely, I didn't see a too much of a difference outside of like the overall presentation of the uniforms.
Yeah.
Overall, like the product itself, the gameplay itself felt just very modern. And I don't know if that's like a crazy good or bad reflection on the sport that nothing has changed, seemingly. I'm sure there's been a lot more nuance and a lot more just skill level that's been increased. But in terms of strategy, I don't know
I
how much
think
you can
the I
go
think
from
the
there.
most noticeable difference I saw was, and it's tough in a highlight video, but was fielding. Like
Okay.
there was a highlight where it was actually Steve Waugh, funnily enough, caught a ball and stepped over the boundary, and it was a six.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Where in the
yeah.
modern day, they would
It
be
would have.
doing the whole catch and throw and jump and come back. Um, and nobody took a screamer.
Okay.
Like, Glenn Phillips in this most recent 2025 Championship Trophy had three highlight reel plays. And like, yeah, maybe he's the best fielder in the world and we shouldn't be expecting that in every World Cup final, but like nobody took an impressive catch. And like
Yeah.
not everybody does in every game, but I think that bowling and batting have, I assume, increased at similar rates. The bowlers are getting slightly faster and slightly better all the time, and the
Yeah.
batters are able to kind of keep up with them, with the exception of when there is some insane standout bowler or some insane standout batter. Um, because it felt like West Indies was just better than everybody else at both for a long time. And
Yeah.
in this game, and based on kind of the numbers from this tournament, it didn't look like anybody was just way better than everybody else.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everybody was just playing the sport, like you said, the same way they play now, but I think at a slightly slower pace.
Right.
And the
Right.
fielding was a little bit of a step behind, probably because there's no analytics. So now there's better catches because people are standing 3 feet to the side versus what they used to and whatever
Yeah.
based on the batter. Like that's my guess.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't it it's really hard to explain. Like it felt modern in a way that the others didn't. And I tried to express that at the beginning by like maybe it's the West Indies thing, but maybe it's just the fact that it looked like it was in a real stadium or that it wasn't like a either a blowout in the final or a weird like really low scoring one. Um, I don't know. It just felt different, and I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can definitely see it where it's just I think overall everything about it, like I think we would have felt differently if the audience was or if the crowd was still allowed to like be closer
Yeah,
to the country. Like I think overall, like even that little change, if everything else was different from 79 or 83, and just the crowd was the only thing that wasn't different, I think even then we would have still been like, oh, like this is older cricket. But I think just the sudden change from the 83 World Cup, from where it was just so different to the modern product, that stark difference, I think, was or is why we see it as just such a different um just different from everything else. Like the first
yeah,
three matches, first three World Cups were just so separated from this and that and go from there. I think that's what it is, where it's just that sudden difference from the juxtaposition of it all, I think is what changes the perception you see it.
yeah. I know we also talked a little bit before about production values. The picture-in-picture is back to show the wicket for the runners while the main camera follows the ball wherever it's going. There were also some really like zoomed in and slow-mo replays, including like, oh, that was a close run out. Let's watch the replay now, zoomed in and slowed down. And that's brand new, again, at least for the highlight videos, and that made it feel really modern. When it came up for this specific run out, I was like, I wonder if they knew it was going to show the umpire was right, because it did, or if they were just like, let's see. Because imagine if it showed it was wrong, and like this was obviously years and years before video replay was allowed. Could you imagine as old as 1987, like knowing at home on your couch that the umpire got it wrong and that your team got screwed because of it? That would drive me crazy.
For sure, for sure. Hey, but I will say, speaking, I know we like barely get into the umpires, and we didn't do that much of that earlier, outside of Doctor Ump is how I'm going to refer to him as. But the pharmacist,
Yeah,
um, I will say consistently outside of I think like hockey. I know you're a huge
yeah.
hockey referee guy, but
Ice hockey for
ice
people
hockey.
watching
Yeah.
the subcontinent. Yeah.
I think cricket has some of the best officials in all of sports. Like in terms of their professionalism, in terms of their ability to know not even just like consistently get the rules right per se, but it's like there are a lot of the close calls that we've seen. I mean, I'm comparing directly to MLB umpires.
Yeah.
MLB umpires, they don't like getting shown up. They don't like getting their questions. Their calls being questioned. Versus like cricket umpires, I really see them being. I mean, again, this is early in the stages of before video replay and whatever in terms of being able to turn a call over. But the fact that the umpire got it right, I think for me, it's just like I just see that so many more times. Where how many times have we on replay have we seen the 3D image where the ball bounces and it just barely misses the wickets and the umpire gets it right. But I'm just like, how did you do that? How are you so good at this? I don't know. Sorry. I feel like umpires deserve more love, and I just wanted to throw that out there. But I disregard. I will stop rambling about umpires.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Especially back in the day, like we saw this run out call was correct, but like maybe
Who
all the
else is
LB,
there working?
maybe every LBW call was wrong. I don't know. Like
Fair enough. Fair
and
enough.
like also and maybe we'll just do an episode on it in the future. Like I don't know how that computer system works. Maybe it's wrong. Like
Yeah.
who knows? But yeah, I know I get what you mean and I think part of it is just exposure. Like
Okay.
there's 162 Major League Baseball games a year
Yeah.
for each of the 30 teams. There's like 3,000 some hundred um, Major League Baseball games a year.
Yeah.
And you watch, I would guess you personally, 150 of them ish. More or less on in the background, at least when you're in high
Yeah.
school, all those other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And you're only going to see the highlights for the guys who messed it up and got it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like all over, or at one point, we're all over baseball social media. So, like, I think that's part of the bias versus cricket. Like, as much as these individual men are playing an unbelievable, ungodly amount of cricket 12 months a year, like, the number of actual games is just much lower,
That's
I,
fair.
I think. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I think overall, through four World Cups, I don't have any complaints with them. The umpires. I will say that's good, I guess, right? We've seen four finals highlight videos and we haven't seen any controversial stuff.
I mean, we
Maybe the
also have to
ICC
look
keeps it
at
out of the highlight reel,
exactly. There
but
you go. Right. This goes back to the confirmation bias, selection bias type thing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of your research, you didn't see any like newspaper articles that
no.
are like, yeah, fuck the umpires, they screwed us. But how mad do you think England was finding out that their team was going to go to the finals and not being able to host in their home country?
It's like, bro, get good.
Good. Offer
Don't
more
don't assume.
money.
I think it's funny because they got screwed and couldn't host because they assumed they could.
Right, right, right.
And then instead of getting mad, they got good and they went to the finals. They couldn't quite finish it, but they knocked India out of their own thing, right? Or was
Because it was
yeah,
yeah, it was
England knocked India out. So it's like, I don't know, is that fair
yeah, they got the
retribution?
last laugh type thing. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair
I
enough.
mean, Actually, let me look up real quick. Um, did they? Yeah, they paid back. In 1983, India knocked England out in the semis in England's home. So that's actually, yeah, that's, I mean,
A fun
talk about
little,
rivalry watch. I
yeah,
wonder
yeah.
how England and India felt about each other after these back-to-back World Cups. And then who gets to host and one-upping each other in terms of
There's just a
payment
lot of
and
layers in that storyline for
yeah.
sure.
Um, my very, very final thought, because I know we need to get going, is big fence around the field. Fans cannot rush on when the game is done. But there was like no celebration from Australia. They like slowly jogged kind of towards the wicket and shook some of the England batter's hands and like the umpire's hands, but like there was no jumping around, there was no dog pile, there was no
It's
yelling.
because
Like,
it's because the sport is played by gentlemen, Keegan.
when's it gonna change?
That's
That's
the
something to
first.
watch.
Second thing, I know for sure that the Australian coaching staff said no celebrating because that is not going to win us games. And they took
But
that
they
very
can. The game's
seriously.
done.
No, no, no.
They should have
That's
been
how locked
celebrating
in
because
they
the coach
were.
said no
That's
drinking
how
until the
locked in
tournament's
they were.
over. And the tournament's over. Now they can't get to drink.
No, that's how locked in they were. I respect it. Gilmore died for this.
It stinks he wasn't on the team, huh? He really deserved that one.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I think that's gonna do it for us and for 1987. We will not be joining you for 1991. It's 1992. They skip
Oh,
it. We're going down under Australia, New Zealand, I believe, are co-hosts in 1992, which means they're hosting in January and February. And they went with January and February of 1992 instead of January and February of 1991. Um, but yeah, that'll do it. I don't know who wins in 1992. We'll find out together. And see you later.